I think that I mean, right now, I think we're sort of in the finger pointing stage in terms of finding out the problems. It's clear these gaps are widening on these various levels. So now I think the next step is finding out the solutions, examining where's the origin of the problem. Why is it that the poverty gap is widening? And examining it from the standpoint of being able to provide sort of a diagnosis for it. And I think that especially groups like the CBC and even President Obama can start to take sort of larger steps in that direction. We have to be able to, I mean, it's one thing to say that we're getting poorer, but it's another to be able to explain why and then pose a solution to that. And I think that, I mean, this report has come out for a long time. It's actually a yearly report, so it's not new information that this is widening. So much, I haven't seen a lot of attention now being paid to, okay, let's start solving the problem. We can see it widening, and it's going to keep widening as the reports get out until we start saying, okay, let's start posing some solutions. Let's figure out where this movement is occurring and put some stopgaps there.
Do you think that, as a people, that the solutions to our problems have to be more grassroots solutions? And I ask that question because, when we look at the economic conditions of America, when I think of America in 2009, I can't help but be reminded of what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in reference to that America would fall. And we're looking at all of her institutions, whether it be economic, whether it be educational, whether it be healthcare, and every institution, of course, they're all tied to one another. They're all in trouble. And so I'm asking the question, is the solution for us that we do something for ourselves, or does it lie somewhere in a stimulus package or any of these solutions that the politicians are trying to offer?
I think, so to answer the question, I think it's got to be a grassroots, ground level, individual first in terms of taking responsibility type of solution. Because as much as we hear these solutions posed by politicians, I don't think any of us are fooled by the fact that politicians don't do a good job of solving problems. They just, none of us really believe that. So, and even unfortunately, Barack Obama is a politician, and he's one person. So, I do appreciate though some of the things that he has said, especially on the campaign trail, in terms of creating this sort of paradigm shift in our perspective. And that has to begin, with the individual at home, in the neighborhoods. That has to happen because the problem is that we've always gone in this one direction and we've gone into this hole. And we have to realize that in order for us to get out of that hole, we have to turn into an opposite direction, which is not, it's easier said than done, but it is the only way that we can solve that. So we can't wait for Congress or a stimulus package to do that. It doesn't work. It's just throwing, it's throwing more fuel on the fire, I think.
Yes, sir. And I agree with you 100%. The minister this past Savior's Day, his lecture was entitled "Accepting Responsibility to Build Our Communities." And it just stands so true. Like you said, that's a perfect point that Barack Obama is one man, and he, in fact, is a politician. And he is beholden to whatever forces put him in that office, whether it be the people who voted for him or the people who are behind the scenes who dictate policy that we never see. But the reality is, if we want to change our condition, then we have to do something for ourselves. We have to come with the strength to build our own communities. As the dollar falls, we don't know what the medium of exchange is going to be. We don't know if the dollar is going to be, because it's worth 62 cents or something like that at last check. We don't know what's going to happen. But the reality is that we have got to go on regardless of what happens in this country and what happens in the world.
Right. There's a beautiful verse in the Quran that comes to mind where God says that the condition of a people will not change unless they change the condition of themselves, and meaning their inner selves.
Right.
And there's a couple of ways that we interpret that, but one of the main ways is not probably the exact meaning of that verse, but one of the main ways is that we only get ourselves in trouble when we keep going in this one direction. That's usually the wrong direction.
Right.
And I think as a community, we've been caught up in a lot of materialism, a lot of consumerism, and we want that. And because we wanted that, we've gotten ourselves in trouble. And until we decide to go into another direction, that will not change. I mean, the bailouts for a lot of most of the banking system and these companies, we see didn't have any effect whatsoever. I mean, it's still, it's still status quo. Still, we're still going to get. I mean, these people get bonuses. They had no idea. They had no thought process of let's be a bit more frugal. Let's be a bit wise with this money because we've lost so much already. And it was just business as usual.
Exactly.
And it's and as in any community, that's a perfect example for us that we won't solve any of these problems that the Urban League and the CBC have pointed out unless we have a fundamental change in the way that we perceive these issues in our everyday lives.
Right. Now, along that same vein, I got to ask this question because it's hard for us to even fathom numbers like, I mean, how much was it? 700 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? This is hard to even fathom what kind of numbers that. But, and I know you're not an economic specialist, nor am I, but how effective do you think that these policies, this stimulus package, and is it the beginning of a recovery, or do you think that we're in for a lot?
I mean, honestly, when you look at economics, things are cyclical. So I do believe that it's hard to pin down exactly when, but I do believe that we're coming to a point where we're kind of on the upswing. But I don't see solutions such as, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's very clear that when this $700 billion package was put on the table, and they said, okay, we're going to give you the first half, and probably the next week they came back and said, well, we need that other half. It's clear that these type of things don't work because you're just throwing, they say, a fool and his money are soon parted.
Right.
And then if you give them more money, they're still that same fool. And you have to have, you have to have this change in perspective. And it's one of the things I did admire most about Barack was he tried to hammer that point home, that the solution is not going to come, really, it's not going to come from the government. It's not going to come from, the passage of legislation or us gathering money and throwing it at a particular industry. It's going to come from people who realize, okay, we do have to make some changes, and those changes are going to entail some sacrifices. It's going to entail letting go some of the materialism and the consumerism that we've really have, been almost made to be our nature, and we have to change those things. And it was really refreshing to hear him focus on that because that really is the solution. So, it doesn't matter. It could have been, $700 trillion, and we would still be seeing some of the same issues. I mean, I just couldn't imagine that after a company was close to bankruptcy and you gave them billions of dollars, and there's an implication in doing that says, okay, we want you to now be smarter, and they just turned around and did the